now on to our business. The approval of our September meeting minutes. If anyone has any questions or anything they want clarified, please speak up, and otherwise, I would accept a motion to approve our September meeting minutes.
Approved.
Thank you, Terry. Carol seconds, all in favor? That passed unanimously, thank you. The approval of our expenditures, and if you saw, there was a couple of changes, some things that Terry had noticed, and we'll get to them here, that I had sent this afternoon. So I believe that my agenda is correct, that I printed this afternoon, right? So if I say these check numbers, okay. So we are approving the September prepaid checks, 71459 to 71461, totaling $3,415.72. The October prepaid check, 71548, totaling $299.06. And the October warrants checks, 71549 to 71620, totaling $154,941.10. I had one question, and if anyone else has any others, let me just get to where I make those notes. Check number. My question is about check number 71562 to Melanie Sherignan. For October programs. What programs is she doing? That seemed like a lot more money than we usually.
That is the that was the Quintocracy grant. That was her and her musical group came in and did a program where they played along to the cabinet of Dr. Killarney. And so yeah, it was a program. And so part of it was funded through a grant.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And the grant money had come in already.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And the other one was just what we were paying the First Citizens Bank, 71573. It was just $265.71. I don't think I even received it. Well, okay.
That used to be CIT.
Okay,
It's new on those.
okay.
I said the same thing, when the bill came, I'm like, who are these people?
It's funny how your brain gets used to kind of what you see and when something jumps out at you. Does anyone have any other questions about anything?
And I don't know if you saw my explanation for why at the end of the list, things are not in sequential order, because the list is sorted alphabetically. So 2 checks had to be reissued, and then there was an additional 1, so.
Okay,
So checks 71618 and 71619 are in the list, just not in the parallel.
okay, great. Anyone else have any questions? And if not, would someone like to make a motion to approve the expenditures? Thank you, Jean. Great, that's Heather. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. The approval of the financial reports, the September prepaids and October warrant summary sheet, the budget report, the income report, and there are no gifts this month to report. Anyone have any questions or comments about anything in the expenditures? And if not, would someone like to move to approve the financial reports? I move. Okay. Thanks, Nancy. Would someone like a second? Okay, thanks, Jean. All in favor? All right. my report. I don't have anything to report. Public comment, we don't see anybody. Correspondence and communication, there are 2 cards making their way around. Yes, thank you, Mr. Passing. Okay, thank you card from Sarah Dallas and a thank you card from Denise. So we are at your report, and I want to just say thank you, all of you, for taking extra time with your reports this month to give us a sense of the picture of where you've been with the strategic plan. For those of you who don't remember on the board, this current plan will go through 2024. And so we know all of the folks in the library will be reevaluating a lot more in the next 6 months or so of what they're thinking about moving forward. But I thought it would be nice for us to have a little bit of an updated picture for everybody. So thank you for taking extra time with that.
You're welcome.
Is there anything you'd like to highlight?
So, I don't know if, from my progress report here, if you could raise any questions for you, or, rehash it. There are some things that I didn't include this month because I wanted to focus on this, but I didn't want to, thank you for the support that we've gotten for our staff development day. We had that very successful, I think, over at City Hall. I want to thank you, Terry, for coming for part of the morning. I hope you found it informative. The questions, Terry was there for the ask us anything portion of the day.
And also the city officers.
Yeah. So, and we seem to have the youngest police chief in the world.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to hear from the city officials that we don't work all that closely with because we're separate unit of government, but we do cooperate in some ways. So that was very nice. And then just to remind you that this week is Saratoga Book Festival. It's bigger and better than ever before. It kicked out this morning with a ribbon cutting ceremony. And a poem written for the occasion by Joe Bruchek, written recited for the occasion by Joe Bruchek. It's going programmatically on Thursday evening with Wally Lamb at the Spa Little Theater at SPAC, and then Friday with Simon Winchester in conversation with Bill McKibben at UPH, and then takes over the town on Saturday with events all day long, all throughout the downtown. So we're very excited.
Nice.
Like, why was the ribbon cutting today? It's been a little detached from.
Well, you know what, I asked that too, and the chamber says they always encourage people to do the event, to do the ribbon cutting a little bit before the event, to take advantage of, to make it a promotional moment for what's coming up, rather than trying to do it like in the midst of while you're trying to get things kicked off. And because the event is all over town, it kind of isolates it and highlights it in advance of the event. I had the very same question.
Nice. Okay, so some things that you brought up. I had a question on the satellite location ideas. And so I know that was one of the things that you, Trevor, were exploring this summer with going place to place. And I didn't know if there's any piece of that we can help in conversation, or is that something to put in a place to do some data collecting, or?
I think we do need to collect some data. I think the lessons that we learned this summer, one partnership with the town of Wilton, one was with the Greenfield Fire Department. In the past, we probably had better look at the Greenfield Farmers Market than we did at the Quarter Spire. Primarily because the Quarter Spire house is a little bit tucked away, even in Quarter Corners, it's around the corner from where the big intersection is. So we probably want to reach out to the town, to the fire district, town, and maybe do something as simple as making a sandwich board or lawn signs by the busiest intersection there, or can say, hey, the library is here on Tuesday or whatever at 5 o'clock, just around the corner. So I think those were some valuable lessons. And then we may also want to branch out a little bit with who we might be partnering with. It seems like there is no stewards in Quarter Corners, but there's a steward on every other corner. And it's funny to me that there's no stewards in Quarter Corners.
Just wait, just wait.
But there's one up there, in the next little hamlet over in Mill Grove, which seems to be where there's probably more traffic and maybe a little bit more of the centralized population in Mill Grove than in Quarter Corners. And so maybe reaching out to stewards who also own a lot of real estate and in these strips where often there are vacant spaces, so there might be an opportunity to partner with them because they've got a space, like I say, in Greenfield Center, where I always see, but they could spot, they've got a spot.
One on 99,
What's that?
those stewards on 99.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's getting a lot of traffic.
yeah. Because they also have a liquor store that is.
Right, the important thing.
Right, and it's right across, or right in from town hall. There's a stewards over on Route 50 by Jones Road, where often there are vacancies in that plaza as well. So there may be some opportunity it will with them, and that's a very busy intersection there. Had the advantage of both of those places. They've got parking. And who knows what's going to happen at the Wilton Mall? There's traffic out there, but now they're turning it into residential. That's what it seems like. They're building apartments or condos.
Is it, the YMCA on Hick Road, seems like that would be a good.
Right, and we've reached out to them. It's a little, and my only concern, and they would probably welcome a partnership with us.
A lot of kids go through there.
There's not a ton of extra space, because we've actually looked at that space by using that space for a staff development day at one point. But it is busy, so they don't have a lot of vacancies, but it's tucked away behind the Walmart there, so it's not
Yeah, it's not.
necessarily on.
Right, it's not on the track.
Will we continue though to do? Are you not going anywhere now with the band?
We don't have, aside from we'll just have a presence at the book festival this weekend. I think the next step that we're going to take is we're going to offer drop-off locations, or pick up and drop-off locations timing around school breaks. They're coming up, that's currently planned. Sarah, I was gonna say this for my turn, but just real quick, Sarah Durbin is currently at a conference. It's the Association of Bookmobile and Outreach Services Conference, which is a national conference happening in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And she called me this morning from the conference, absolutely giddy. And so it's like, she says, I have plans, and there's like a car show of bookmobiles that they have at this thing. It's just text me pictures, which I haven't gotten yet. But she's, the bookmobiles are on display. So I have a plan. I've got vision. People are doing this. And I said, yes, that's why you went there. Like, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Right, and so far, we've only been places where we could kind of set up and open the van up and be outside, which is not really something that we can do.
Right, yeah. Right.
Yes,
I was just wondering if you checked with food pantries and or soup kitchens and or senior centers. Very often they'll have something that'll happen once a month.
Sure.
And so if you can find out what those schedules are, you might find underserved population.
Sarah's got a meeting later this month with the senior center to start doing events or some kind of, establish some kind of partnership over there. As far as senior center and other senior living communities, she goes in on a weekly basis to different ones and does like a pop-up library. So the van's not involved. She's got rolling carts and just comes in and sets up like, I mean, if someone was doing like a craft fair, it would look like that, except for it's library stuff. And so she's doing that along with the routine deliveries that she makes, but you know, food pantries and up at the church, I mean, that's a natural fit. And we've got people there, maybe there's other services that can come along with that too.
Maybe on Lincoln Terraces.
Yeah,
And we did regularly, not this summer, but last summer, make weekly visits to the group. The community center right there. Greenfield Center.
And so is your hope that then, where you see more activity around the van is where potentially you may want to think about another location?
Correct.
And so then it's just mapping out that Wilton,
Right.
Greenfield thing. Okay. I appreciate, you know, the website done and with all the work that you and Brendan have done, what it has changed for how accessible the information and stuff is really huge. So I appreciated that you drew our attention to that. And I saw the piece about continuing to build really and engage in the equity, diversity, inclusive work in web as like an interwoven piece as opposed to a separate lens, and your progress there. And we'll be excited to also hear, I think, what suggestions the architects make about space and how you're thinking about space differently. Did anybody else have anything that they noticed? If you had a chance to look at these pieces in Ike's report, which will happen now with everybody who's here. So if something comes to mind, they'll be here. No? Okay. Thanks, Ike. Jen, you are next. I just want to say that just as Trevor's mentioning how that piece of the energy when you go somewhere and here's some other perspective. I really enjoyed reading about I wrote down engagement of voices. That's what I was struck by.
Yeah, so I didn't know what to write for anything, and I like gave stuff to Jamie and Catherine, like just a list that was trying to be an overview, which I did way more brilliantly than I did. So then I wrote this basic essay of my retreat of what I learned, and I tied it in to our strategic plan. I just sent an email to Terry and Jean and Nancy, like something else I got there. So like something sparks like that immersive 1 week getaway to just listen and learn from others. So I really have nothing to add except for my learning
We're
experience.
here when it digests. Sometimes you have to give that digestion some time, right?
Yes.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Jen? Don, you are up, and I also just wanted to acknowledge at the end of your report, you talked about this obstacle for expectations. And I think that the tension of that and how you're thinking about it's just a thoughtful dialogue because it's so, I read that and said, oh yeah. And I know you're all doing this all the time, but thanks for articulating it right there for us.
I don't have anything really to point out. I filled most of it with the things that IT touches on. We don't have a direct effect on a lot of the things other than maybe the website, but we'll try to support everybody else's actions towards those things.
And I think they would think they couldn't do it without you, so. Thank you. Any questions for Don? No? And then we have Gina's report in here. I had to kind of go down to the definitions because I was like, how does she know what the brand awareness is? Says the person who really does not engage in such things. So other than this being lots of really good data, is there anything, Ike, that struck you as oh, we should really take note of that particular number, percent, or whatever?
But as I mentioned in my report, I was really surprised by the big jump into YouTube, and I asked her what accounts for that, and she said, slippery fish. She didn't have to. And she says that what happens is that classes find those things, and so it's interesting that the most popular things on our YouTube channel are things that were created years ago and are still, people are still somehow finding. The percentage of open rate for our e-newsletter, I think it's, it would be nice for it to be higher, but 63% is actually not bad when we're looking at a newsletter or something to click through and open it. So I think that's, and that list continues to grow, the number of people subscribing to the newsletter.
I wonder how Twitter feels about the fact that by changing their name to X, absolutely everything has to say formerly Twitter.
It makes me laugh.
But it's always, and if we just put the X, we wouldn't know what they're talking about, right? At some point, maybe it'll change. Okay, so clearly when you're bored, there's finger plays galore for you to play with on the library site. And Trevor.
Sure. I just wanted, I first and foremost, I really want to thank the time and the thoughtful responses that Marianne Rockwell and Sarah Durbin provided for my report. When I was reading through their individual monthly reports after saying, here's what we're going to explore the state of the long range plan, where we're at, where you two feel like we're at, and I'm going to bring it all together in something that's hopefully kind of coherent and shows where ALS is at. And I'm reading through this stuff, and it's stuff in pieces, I know, but when you see it all lumped together, I say, oh my gosh, these are spectacular individuals. And going back to, Sarah being at this conference right now, and then she just had to call me this morning and say, here's what I'm doing. And I'm seeing a staff member who's been with the library for many years, seeing someone who is still continuing to evolve and is coming kind of into their own and is feeling like they found a calling doing this work and working with the population that they're serving. She's also now on her own time, she's volunteering at hospice. And just, I'm running backup for her while she's at this conference. And so I went and was checking her voicemail messages, and she has people leaving the most delightful voicemails you have ever heard in your life. So when her phone light is blinking, many of us, when we see that notification on our phones at home, at work, we go, oh, what do you want? Oh, I can't wait. Someone's going to wish you have a good day. How you doing? Oh, loving this. And these people are delightful. So I just wanted to sit there and listen to these messages over and over again. So, no, that's really just, I just really wanted to express that up top. So, and out of all of this, any questions that I'll try to answer that anybody else had? And if not right now, because I'm putting you on the spot, anytime in the future, you're welcome to ask these questions, and I will also try to answer them.
Well, I think one of the things that you also really articulated for us is the whole way that your department emerged, which we were a part of those conversations and the name and
Yeah.
But that really it completely is exactly what the strategic plan is working on right now,
Yes.
right? I mean, you're really thinking, I mean, obviously, you're all working through the library with collections and programs and this interface, and how do we reach people, and are we reaching the people,
Yeah.
and what other, so I was struck just by that all of you, the layers of it feels like it's just this beautiful woven tapestry that's rippling out.
Thank you. I agree, because on paper, people look at it and they say, wow, how does that fit together? And I think this shows, like you said, this is how the pieces work together. And so that was some fantastic, that was some crazy foresight on your parts putting this together and supporting this. So thank you.
Yeah, it's good. Does anyone have questions or anything for Trevor?
I just had an observation and then a question. I was really pleased to see the several mentions of both what's going on with the literacy program, but also how that interest in people with other first languages was being had also in collection.
Yes.
Building.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you could say any more about the prospect of the new position for the library assistant for the DLL program. That's mentioned further investigation to read. I was wondering what's the state of the further investigation?
Yeah, we haven't chatted about it since that was brought up last month, at last month's board meeting. I think it's a great idea. I think we have to, I mean, the position's there, it's being rewritten.
It hasn't gone before the civil service commission yet, the revision of that,
But I think, I mean, narrowing the focus, like, obviously, I think the feeling is we want it to be a teaching position. Okay, and so then what are the immediate needs? What are the things that we want to teach? Because I know when Lorena Diaz, she was teaching Spanish to speakers of English. And I mean, the demand was there. Her programs were filling up. Is that something that we want to continue to offer? Or is that something that someone would be able to do, say, dual duty? Someone that's teaching English to Spanish speakers and would also teach Spanish to speakers of English, that kind of thing. We just really have to figure out what the demand is and where best, what the demands are, and then create the job to try to attract the type of person that can teach those things that we want to have taught.
And do you have people just come through and say, well, I see that you have these Spanish things, or I'm coming to the English classes, but more people are speaking these languages or those languages, and I would like to see something that could address particularly where I'm at? Do you get a sense of that from people, or is it?
I mean, we mostly have beginners, and I feel that most of these, I mean, new to English, people that are new to speaking English, and I feel that most of these people are referred, so they're being referred through organizations or through, other people they encounter in town to the library. I just had another thought that I lost. Shoot, it was a really good one too. I think being referred elsewhere to the library, that's a big part of it.
I think we get a fair number of people from global boundaries families.
Yes.
And English language learning classes, and so many of them they're from across the world, and they're not necessarily from any particular.
Oh, I remembered it. Okay. And the other situation that we're finding, which is great, is that since we are addressing mostly people who are beginners, Marian is noticing more students that are a little bit more advanced, that want to study more advanced English language learning, and pairing them with someone that's able to do that is a little bit harder, because obviously trying to do, beginners all as one group and try to teach to the group is ideal, especially if we have a volunteer, they can accommodate the most number of people at one time. But we've got some of these students that are more adept, that want to continue. They're at the cusp of being able to be, conversant, to be able to understand humor, which is a huge part of language, these concepts. And so they're at that point of grasping concepts in the language. So trying to accommodate them is going to be the challenge.
Right. Okay. Catherine is not here. Is anyone have anything that perhaps Jen or I can answer that they had a question about in Catherine's report?
I think, I've been really impressed with the way that she's approached analyzing the collection out there, make sure that it's up to date, that it's reflecting our community as it is now and as it wishes to be reflected. And really she's done a terrific job at and probably more so than in other places in the library yet, but they've really taken the notion of auditing that collection to heart and they're doing a great job at that.
That's great. Okay, Judy, I think we are at you.
So Catherine and I tried, when we were looking at the strategic goals, we tried to put ours together just because we thought that between the two of us, we really had a continuum of services between for our patrons. So if you have any questions, you can certainly ask. I do feel that being so new that I might not be able to speak to them that great, but I will definitely try. And just in my board report, I wanted to say that I think it was last month, Terry, you had asked about one of our databases, and it got me thinking people might not know which databases we have, why we have them, what purpose they serve, how they fit into, our strategic goals and everything. So I'm going to try once a month to just feature one of our databases and who they're servicing. And a huge thank you from myself and my staff to Don, who has made the remote printing possible for us. That was a service that had gone down and didn't have it over the summer. And so Don and I were able to work together and get that up and running. And it's definitely been well used. It was something that was hard to report on, saying, hey, we need this, because all these people come in and then we have to tell them no. And so it just removed that barrier to access. So thank you.
Great. Yes, and really the most important question is the fourth wing worth reading?
Okay, so now I know what it again. I'm about 3/4 of the way through and I am very much enjoying it. But ask me next month and I'll. Yeah, I should have mentioned this too. We're doing Senior Planet, which is a new program. 5 of us got trained to offer technology services to older adults 50+. So these are our programs that we're starting off with. So we're really, really excited.
Yeah. Sure, we can all learn a lot of things there. That's great. So will you be doing it as specific programs to say what you're gonna focus on each round or something?
Yep, so these ones, you mean it for Senior Planet?
Yeah.
Yep, so these ones are the first round, so this is from October to January.
Okay.
And then we're gonna see how those go, if there's a need to repeat that class. But there's hundreds of different classes and they give you the curriculum for all of them.
Nice.
So we have so many things to choose from. There's lecture style, there's where you're just presenting the info, there's more workshop style where like the last half hour is you're helping people one-on-one, which goes hand in hand with, we already do one-on-one computer help appointments. This sort of just gives it a little more meat, I think. And then there's also courses, so multi-week courses. They have their own course books and all kinds of stuff. So we're just really excited to be able to feel like this is offering a little bit more meaningful programming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that there are 2 bullets for the smartphone photography?
Well, that is being offered twice, but that's my mistake. We have 2 different presenters who really wanted to do it, and so I said, go ahead, because then we'll see the different styles and. Yeah.
And so then who did are you and Catherine who worked on these next 4?
Yes.
Do you mind scrolling down
Yeah.
for that? No, so people can see. No.
Now we go.
Yeah,
Yes.
um. So if people didn't get a chance to really, the trustees get a chance to really look at that, maybe you could take a peek between this meeting and our next meeting, if you want to come back with any questions, because it really does give us such a nice picture of both what things, like you said, have been accomplished and what's on the to-do and what you're focusing on and what you're thinking about. It's just really, I thought was really neat for me to get just some clarity and see where your visioning is and, yeah, so many good things going on.
It's a really interesting and unusual way for us to be thinking about what our progress is on a strategic plan, because normally we're reporting numbers.
Yes. Yes, and so in fact, then, and I remember those conversations about choosing to approach this one differently. For those of you like Jen and I who then did this the old way and are seeing it this way, what do you think?
This seems to me much more impactful and to echo what Trevor said, like sitting down and doing this for you. So thank you for asking us to do this, to sit down and give you a progress report. It really does make us realize like how much we have accomplished.
Yeah, yeah. I would also say that it was always hard for me in the old reports to just really hold on to what the data, that there's really good reasons to analyze data, and I love doing that, but there's also, all the things that aren't real data points, right? That have so much more wholeness around them. And I feel like, at least this round of the strategic plan, that I have a clearer sense of what it is you're doing, what it is you're thinking about, more so than I did with the last one. But I also wasn't here as long. But I also hope that it informs then that process moving forward of how you think about then potentially the next one.
Sure.
So great. So there's those four particular focus slides there: the community convener, libraries, place, community leadership, and universally accessible. The trustees could take a look at those.
Can I ask about and somebody may know this, does the city have a volunteer coordinator for lots of organizations in the city? Like, is there one place that people go to find volunteers?
There used to be like a fair. Do you remember that? They used to do kind of a
Well, the community services
fair.
fair, yeah.
But I don't know like a coordinator person. Does anybody else?
If there was like a grant, somebody kind of, I just was looking at what you did for the teens for volunteering and other opportunities, and just wondering if the city, it's been a long time since I, like in City Hall, or just, the chamber maybe?
The chamber has an impact sector.
Right.
It's in a good place.
Actually, we
Leadership
have
group.
meetups at Camp Molina on like, is it the board Tuesdays?
For volunteer.
It's on Tuesday afternoon where they feature one nonprofit sector. And I think it used to be one of the events on, as associated with the MLK Day stuff, right? That different groups would set up and you could then learn about and potentially do stuff that day, but also longer term connect.
And the number of years ago, there was and I can't remember who published it, but a small yellow.
Oh, you're square.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to think of.
That's just what I was gonna say, they've been putting together a book of good works, I think, this.
Yeah, the baby.
And they call every year and update, whatever.
And is that then more focused on youth, since it's a youth, since youth square is a youth, or is it not necessarily?
No, I think it's No, be comprehensive.
Nice,
That's great.
yeah. Okay, any questions anybody had reading Rick's report? And I can tell you, I did just sign all of the things that wrapped up that big project, that big HVAC project. I know, that was years, that was literally years. Who knew? Okay,
But I did want to highlight two things. One, just, I mean, this ongoing effort Rick has been making to change out the lights and save
Yes.
some energy. It's been a big project. It's still ongoing, so it will really help us continue to be some of our sustainability. And then Rick is out this week. So Dan Salmon, who's sort of the second in charge, pulled me aside today and said, I just want to tell you that this crew of people, we've got a lot of new people in the department. This crew of people that we're working with now it's the best group I've ever worked with in this department in 20 years.
nice. Well, I hope you share that with Kelly when she comes back too. Yeah, isn't that great? Because that particular department has also been so hard. I know it review all the staff.
And if you're here today, I mean, you can see right now, the weather is good and they can be out there, they are working hard.
Yeah, yeah. They're like the squirrels getting ready for the cold. Okay, and then I was happy to see in Kelly's that she's going to start working on the performance evaluations. I know all of you have had conversations around that, so that's nice, and really is also that strategic plan in-house, right, to make that process feel more yours. Okay, anything else for any of the department folks before I move us to the agenda? All right. Committee, special committee reports, we don't have any, but what I would like to do is, we have not yet, done committee assignments for this year. That's something else that I was gonna do last month, our agenda was too full. So we have a personnel committee, that mostly oversees the evaluation process of Ike's position as library director. That coordinates us gathering that information. And then we're called in sometimes with some random, like when you change some of the civil service, there was some piece that we met a couple of times outside of our regular board meeting to just get it through the city. The personnel committee does not, in general, do anything with hiring within the library, unless for some reason someone wanted our opinion, which they probably don't necessarily want our opinions. So last year, Heather and Frank, you were on that committee. I don't know whether you're comfortable staying or you want to shift. Opinion?
I can stay.
Okay, does anybody want to join them? And you all good? Don't all jump up and down. And so the only other committee right now that I'm just gonna put out there, when we were working on the land development, we made a committee about that. That was a short-term committee. In general, we don't have ongoing committees. So the other committee that will probably begin at some point in the winter will be working on a strategic plan. Eventually, that strategic plan process is something that the whole board participates in. But there's some initial work when Ike and Jen and the department heads all start to create themes of what they want to do, then we're kind of drawn in a little bit to participate in some of that. So we don't define or assign, but we're supportive. And so that would start at some point in the winter, I think that you predicted. So I plan on sitting on that committee, and if you have some time now, or if you know that you would like to, you can let me know now, and otherwise, it'll come back up. And then when the strategic planning, so really the strategic planning process, the next one will begin in will you begin it towards the end of 2024, or I can't remember how we do that overlap.
We'll probably begin it, this winter, so that, because the current plan goes through,
December 31st of 2024.
or probably through the end of the fiscal year.
Oh, okay, so the summer, right, yeah. And then when we choose how all that's gonna happen, then the board is more involved with, if we bring in consultants, if we're, we wanna work with it, that information comes from Mike, because we all convert about it. So that would happen often in our meetings, not necessarily in a committee meeting. So that we all are up to date and have a voice.
I'm just confused about the timing. So this is a committee that isn't gonna do anything until December of 20.
No, we'll meet this coming winter in January or February.
This year.
Yeah, for this, the fact that one is gonna wrap up, and so then it's just, they're all
Plan is gonna wrap.
will wrap up, and then they're gonna be exploring themes, and,
Okay.
so, yeah, do you want to participate?
Yeah, I can do that.
Great, anybody else? Jean, thank you. So, so the personnel committee this year will be, Heather and Frank. And then when the library is ready, Jean and Nancy and I will be on the strategic plan. And if anybody wants to join anything else, feel free to let me know. And if for some reason we see a reason for a committee temporary, for some reason, we can do that at a different time. Now, unfinished business, the discussion on the bylaws that I sent you, that Frank was kind enough to help me think through a little bit in between this meeting and our last meeting. So, how are you feeling about these? Are they outlining the things that you thought we spoke of and that you heard at our last meeting? Is there anything that you want to change or add or subtract? I'll just go through them really quickly. That number one, public comment is limited to the portion of the meeting designated. 2, people who wish to speak must sign in and provide their name and address for public record. 3, each speaker will have a maximum of 2 minutes. 4, the public comment period is limited to 15 minutes unless the board votes to extend the time period for social circumstances. 5, public input is limited to comments on matters involving library business or operations. 6, personal complaints against library staff or board members shall not be received in an open meeting. Any such complaint shall be presented to the library director in writing for appropriate action. 7, the board shall not engage in dialogue and is not obligated to respond during public comment. The board may ask clarifying questions. 8, additional agenda items will not be added after public comment, and the board is not obligated to address public commentary at a future meeting. The board may refer any matter of public comment to the library director, library staff, or the appropriate agency for review. 9, there will be no public comment when the board conducts special board meetings. And 10, a brief summary of the public comments will be included in the meeting minutes.
Yeah, I just a general question, and that is about the placement of this document. On the agenda, it's listed as both bylaws and public comment policy. We have.
So it's one or the other.
Yeah, we have a bylaws document, but then we have a whole string of other separate policy documents, so.
So that's the question, is which do we want? One is, are you comfortable with what this says? And then 2, where would you like it to live? Do you want it to live in the bylaws? Or do you want it to live as a separate policy on the library, which would then be under, I don't know, where is the patron conduct and stuff.
There's a whole policy section.
So it would just be listed under that, it's not sub-listed under, okay. So that is, a part of our conversation, is if people have an opinion about where it is.
I guess I think it should go in the bylaws.
Okay,
That's not to say it couldn't also show up in the policy, yeah, it's a policy, but.
but the bylaws, because it's during our board meetings.
Yeah, again, some more direct, we have in there more directly relates to the board, I think,
Mm-hmm.
in the bylaws.
There's a section in the bylaws on reading.
Yes. There is, right.
So
And there is, the only thing it says, do you have that open? The only thing it says about public comment is just, I believe it says that it will have 2 minutes. You go, that's the way that is structured. There's another part of our, bylaws.
So with a policy, right, you would more give a rationale and an explanation
So what
of
I
what's doing it.
Yeah, so what I said was, at the top, in accordance with New York State's open meetings law, members of the public are welcome to attend meetings in the Saratoga Springs Library Board of Trustees. The only exception shall be meetings held in executive session. All individuals attending board meetings must conduct themselves with respect and civility in compliance with the patron behavior code of conduct. Library policy for public input at library board meetings, and then they're listed. Let me go, do you see?
Yeah. Is it, what the bylaws give us the order of the agenda,
Yeah,
and then
under public
after
comment,
public comment, it just has a note that says speakers shall be limited to 2 minutes.
the president may, in his or her discretion, extend or further limit this time limit, right? And so that's where that did not feel like enough. So it would sit under, I guess, that
So
5.7. Right? Would you agree with that, Frank? I was gonna pull it up here too.
this is the listing of the order of the agenda.
Oh, yes, yeah. Don has it up there. Oh, look at your fancy. They highlighted it for us.
Yeah, that seems like the natural place, right?
Right, yeah. All right, well, so if everyone has nothing else for the discussion, I guess I would like to make a motion that we approve this library policy for public input at library board meetings to be added, to be modified in our bylaws under the public comment section. Would someone like to? Yes, would you like to second that? Okay, thank you, Jean. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. So because we discussed this last month, also as a potential to change the bylaws, I believe that it can now be implemented. That we've done 2 meetings in a row.
Figure out if it's in there.
Yeah, okay. So do you want me to clean up this, Ike, and send it to you with, so it's just,
Yeah.
yep. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's all right. I'm just curious, in the time that you've been here, has there ever been an issue that created a lot of public comment?
I mean, there have been particular individuals who
Right.
regularly to make public.
Right. And I don't believe we have anything else in new business, and I don't have any update on parking lot. So, does anyone have anything else before I adjourn our meeting? Go ahead.
Just, I wanted to say, as you're looking at your, evaluating, your accomplishments, which have been Wonderful. I would like to see if there's a way you could report out on any shifts in the demographics that you were able to accomplish through your hiring. I think you had the biggest staff turnover in the history of the library. And that's quite an opportunity. And I'd love to see, it helped us move closer to our diversity goals.
I can tell you it didn't.
Well, then you might look at why that happened, and so that we can improve the process and we move forward. Or we might not ever have such a, well, in 25 years, we'll have the next time.
Right.
Mass departures, but it'd be really great to see and evaluate why it was so difficult.
I mean, we have some notions because.
I certainly understand
Yeah.
reasons, including the public systems and and that we're held to, the kind of New York State
Right.
civil service things,
Right.
but
But,
still,
right, but also that we were not the only ones going through this massive turnover. It's a competition for a limited pool of people to really.
it'll be interesting just to see, in that case, the numbers and kind of demographics as that rolls out.
Right.
And we placed it in these many ads, and then we didn't get much result from that, but maybe there's some other places that you can advertise or ways. Just saying,
Yeah, absolutely.
how do we move it?
Right.
And Ike and I had a conversation also about, is there different internship possibilities or, that might bring people in who then wouldn't necessarily have been in the same pool, that it creates a different possibility. And I also thought it was interesting when you shared that, was it the Albany Public Library who then tried to do, make some of those changes were then sued for, on what ground, on the grounds of discrimination. By
That's
trying
not
to,
surprising.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's what we're gonna have to face if we want to really step out is
right,
there's a big backlash. It doesn't mean it's wrong.
doesn't mean it's wrong,
It doesn't.
right,
So the library was being accused of discrimination?
right, because they were trying to build more diversity in their higher.
Yeah, and that's in Albany, which is
Right.
pretty diverse.
Right,
That's
because
just
right, because they had a
ridiculous.
program that was specifically aimed toward recruiting.
Oh, I-
African Americans.
Yeah,
And the basis of the law was that you couldn't limit it to people based on race,
right,
But somehow it happened
which is.
Yeah.
in the past.
yeah, oh, exactly, oh, I know, isn't it amazing?
It was an accident.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for bringing that up,
Yeah, no, we
Jean. Kelly wasn't here for us to kind of include her piece of the strategic plan and what's happened with hiring, and we've been hearing how hard it's been to find people. But yeah, it'll be nice to hear conversations about,
Well, I love the idea about internships or leadership, development within library services.
exactly, yeah, it's great. All right, well, anything else before we adjourn then? No? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, I think we said something else that was really short. Are we off?
No.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Didn't click that.
Yeah, that's fine.